This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
Where are we?
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got our shit together. It was rough. It was a rough couple seconds there for a few seconds. There was like some unlimited like loop back feedback thing
it was
going
very dramatic. It almost fried my brain.
Yes. when you got earbuds in, they're cranked up. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Yeah. So if you witnessed that, I apologize, but we got our infinite loop back figured out. So we're back to normal now.
Yes.
So well,
as much as we can
as
be.
normal as we
Yes.
are,
Yeah.
which is very not normal.
Yes.
We're here and we're live. That's all that counts.
That's right.
Welcome.
Hello, beautiful bell breakers.
Yes. How's everybody doing? We got a doozy tonight, and it's not the normal like what's going on in the world show, because we don't give a shit to any we just
It's fucked. We all know that.
we it's on fire. Nothing new really.
Yeah.
So we decided to go on a deep dive today. We are talking about the incestual love affair between big tech and the intelligence agencies, specifically like the CIA and FBI.
Yes.
And I had heard some mention about certain topics on other podcasts. They didn't it wasn't the topic of their show. It was just like, oh yeah, we all know about the connection between the CIA and Google or something like that. And it's like, oh, let me look into that. And then the more I dug into that, then it took me down another path and another path. And here we are today to talk about this.
And it is quite the path.
It is. It's quite the love affair too. Most of these like tech industries have these like humble background stories,
Right,
like the startup in a garage.
yeah.
Yes. You probably won't be shocked, but it's ridiculous to see how many of them say that they started out of a garage.
Right.
And maybe partially they did, but all these people are like come from wealth.
Yeah.
Like all the Google founders, the like Bill Gates, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, like they all came from, I mean, they were going to like Stanford and Harvard and shit. You can't say that you pulled yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
You
It's
never
like you went to an Ivy League
you were
college.
never on our level here. So your American dream, like humble beginning story,
Did you ever
it's a farce.
Did you ever see that movie? What is it called? I know you don't like Colin Farrell, but it's got Colin Farrell and Al Pacino in it. I think it's like called FBI or something like that. And Colin Farrell is like, he's like at a tech college, and this FBI guy picks him up and like wants to recruit him, and because he really likes his tech, and brings him in, and then like gives him some story about how he's his dad and shit like that. And anyways, basically he just wanted his technology. Is what it was. And I didn't think about that until you had talked about this to me earlier.
Right.
So
what is going on? My earbuds aren't working right either. Nothing's working right today, but it's all right. We're gonna power through it. But yeah, like I said, they all have these like humble beginning stories, but to find out the intelligence connection between all of them is, I mean, shocking, not shocking, I don't know, but like we all know that big tech is in bed with.
Yeah, and I mean we'll get into it, but just the mere fact that they have this nonprofit, venture capitalist that is directly in bed with the intelligence agencies.
Investing. The intelligence agencies are directly investing in like big tech startups and shit just to like get their technology to spy on us. Basically, is what it comes down to. So we're gonna get more into that. Not only are they in bed, but they were basically conceived by some of them. Were conceived directly.
It's very very inbred.
Yes. So it's like being in bed with your father. If you could imagine that, which maybe you can. So before we get into it, obviously we got to mention our sponsor, which is Run Your Mouth Coffee. They support your right to free speech without the CIA listening in on you, the NSA, or with or without being inbred. I don't know. Maybe they support your right to be inbred. But they support your right to be able to stand up for what you believe in without getting put on a list, I guess, is what it comes down to, without being like singled out by these alphabet agencies like the NSA, CIA, and shit. And they make really good coffee, which probably puts them on a list because you're not allowed to make good coffee without being in bed with the government, I guess.
Yes.
Because it's not communist. They're not communists.
Yes.
So.
Well, and they're and everybody knows. I mean, you're Marine, ex-Marine. You know how government coffee is.
Yes, I know exactly how government coffee is. It's terrible. Go to rymcoffee.com. Tell them we sent you by using the promo code Break the Bell, and you'll get 10% off your purchase of non-government sponsored coffee. And it's delicious.
Yeah,
and it's a good deal. rymcoffee.com. It's delivered fresh roasted straight to your doorstep, so you don't got to go to some big box store and buy your coffee. You can get it straight to your door from a company that supports the things that you support, and they make a delicious product. So go to rymcoffee.com.
We actually, moving in and stuff, Jen's going through some of my old stuff, and she found I had a bunch of these MREs.
Oh, yeah?
And so she was looking at them. She's like, "Ooh, there's coffee in here.
Don't do it."
And I know that's what I told her. I said, "Don't do it."
See, when I was in, the MREs contained little Insta pack, like Nestle Insta coffee packs, and so it wasn't terrible, but it still wasn't good. Yeah. But anyways, moving on. Make sure you check out our merch store, which is at breakthebell.bigcartel.com, or you can find it at breakthebellpod.com, our official website. We got a handful of t-shirts out there. We got is this shirt even real shirt? We got the Anti-Cricket Brigade, the I Won't Eat Your Bugs shirt, and then We Are Not Your Pawns, as well as we have our logo on t-shirts and mugs and shit. So breakthebell.bigcartel.com. You can get your hands on some awesome merch. As you pointed out yesterday, Christmas is right around the corner. Yes. I mean, why not support us and give your family some awesome gear? Break the Bell podcast gear, such as these shirts and other things. So make sure you check that out. That's breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Check us out all over social media. Share us far and wide across the lands of the CIA-backed social media platforms, because that's how we get our name out there, as long as the government allows it, which they probably won't. But still, just try. Hit that like and subscribe button. Specifically, if you're on YouTube right now, go and subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can build that thing back up, since we got nuked about 6 months ago and we've had to rebuild. Yeah. Help us out. Go to our YouTube channel and smash that subscribe button. Smack it, or what? Spank it. That's what
Spank it. There you go.
Said. We need to spank that like and subscribe button. Otherwise, I'm ready to get into this one, because this is going to be a fun trip down the rabbit hole.
Let's do it.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the incestual love affair between the CIA and big tech. So we'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about? What did you say? What did you say? What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you saying?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
Did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
All right, and here we go. I hate these earbuds because one side is louder than the other, so it throws me off. It makes me feel like I'm sitting at an angle. Nothing's working right, and your mic's not on.
Oh,
That's how I keep
Yes.
you. That's how I keep you at bay.
yeah, bad dog.
Yes, it's like you sit in the corner and keep your mouth shut.
And you see my mouth moving over here.
I did. I'm like,
yeah.
are you talking? Like, what's happening? You just look kind of shocked, like your earbuds aren't working.
Yeah, what the hell?
I'm speechless. We're gonna get our shit together as much as we normally do, which is not very much. So, Bill, were you surprised to find out that your favorite social media platform was in bed with government intelligence agencies?
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
Why is that?
Well, because I just figured that, I mean, obviously they like to keep tabs on people, and what better way
Right.
to do that than a place where everybody likes to post the shit that they do,
Yes.
right?
I mean, they don't even have to do their job. All they got to do is tap into
Oh,
like
yeah.
Facebook or Twitter because we share everything.
Yep. Be like,
Like-
oh, well, looks like Bill's going to be out of town this week.
Well, looks like he's joining some rally. We should keep an eye on
Yeah,
him.
right.
Well, Craig, it looks like he had salmon and rice yesterday. I mean, is he must be on a diet or something, and he's not eating his typical steak and potatoes.
I
So
know. I had to reel my wife back because we're going to New York next week and talked about going into the city, and she's like, my wife's like, oh, I'm going to wear my Second Amendment shirt, and I'm like, don't do that.
just calm down, woman. Calm down.
I was like, you will be labeled a right wing terrorist.
Yes, probably already on a list
That's-
for just
yeah,
buying
right.
the shirt because
Yeah.
they probably tried. Did she buy it online?
No, it was at that gun show.
Okay, well, they figured it out.
I
Somehow.
was
They
gonna say,
geo-tracked
they
her to
know.
the gun
They
show,
know.
so
Yeah.
she's on a list. So
No, I was surprised about just the different connections into like the gaming industry and
right.
all that stuff, which again we'll get into. But I was just that surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many connections that we have to talk about, and most of the stuff we're just gonna kind of breeze through because
Yeah.
some of these articles are really extensive.
Yeah.
So we can't just sit here and
Yeah.
break down line by line. This would be like a 12-hour
And-
podcast.
you know, and it's funny because they kind of spell it out because the name of the venture capitalist company is InQtel,
Mhm.
right? And it's in the article I read, they're like James Bond gets his toys from Q.
Yeah, that's what they said. They
Yeah.
specifically named it after.
Yeah,
too.
I was gonna say. So they're telling you right there.
Right. So we talked. Do you remember years ago we talked about the wargaming at the 2020
Yes.
election
Yeah.
and how they invited like Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey
Yeah.
and like collaborated with them to spell this thing out and influence the election basically. So
Yeah.
so I mean we talked about this plenty of times. I mean just recently we talked about how Zuckerberg got asked by the FBI to dumb down the info on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
So we know they're in bed with them.
Yeah.
We know they're working hand in hand with them. But what I didn't realize, I guess, is how deep it goes and how
Mhm.
far back it goes.
Right.
And that's what we want to dig into
Yeah.
tonight because it's pretty deep and it's pretty far back.
Yeah.
So let's, I guess, jump right into it.
Yes.
And like I said in the pre-show, all these big tech companies have their humble origin story. Like Amazon started in a garage, Bill Gates started in a garage. Google's the one I want to start with because this article here is actually titled "Google, a digital corporate giant with very humble beginnings." So it seems appropriate. So I have a feeling that they're going right with the main narrative that, hey, it started with a bunch of like poor computer geniuses
Out of the
turned to
garage.
big billionaires. Yeah. So let me pull this one up real quick. It says the foundation. This is from the Costa Rica News.com.
Ooh, Costa
Yes.
Rica.
The foundation and expansion of Google is the classic history of Silicon Valley. Classic. Yeah.
Yes.
And what are the odds that they all fucking started out of
Yeah,
a
right.
garage?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, classic history,
Yeah.
more like classic bullshit story is
Yeah,
what it
right.
seems like to me. Says this company emerges as an idea in the dorm of 2 university students. Its first headquarters was a garage, no less, and a few years later it became a corporation worth billions of dollars, creating a resource so massive that it imposed a web derived from its name. Google it. So basically, or a verb derived
Oh,
from its
yeah,
name.
right,
So
right.
so we talked about this during the Internet is Dead episode, or
Right.
the Dead Internet Theory episode a couple weeks ago, that Google's so big now that it's its own verb. That's how big it's become. Says there was internet before Google, of course. Google was not the first search engine, nor was it the most popular during its early years. And I remember all 3 of these: Yahoo, Alta Vista, and Lycos. When we turned on our computers at school, those 3 popped up on the home screen.
I remember
Yahoo,
Alta
Alta Vista, and Lycos. And you
Yes.
got to pick between them which one you preferred.
Hmm.
And now it's all Google. Now
I was gonna say no.
Yahoo's still around.
Yeah,
I don't.
barely.
I don't.
But Lycos.
Yeah, I
Is
haven't
that a
heard of
thing?
Lycos. Lycos doesn't even get a freaking bold heading like the rest of them because it's just nothing, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Alta Vista, I'm not sure if it exists still or not. It says there were some of the sites that were considered more important. Its creators, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, met at Stanford University, humble beginnings, Stanford, in 1995 while pursuing a doctorate in computer
Oh.
science.
There's Lycos. It is still a thing.
Okay, there you go. As part of their research project, they began to develop Backrub, was the name of their first program. It's
Interesting.
creepy sounding. A new system to sort results obtained from computers. So
Could you imagine if they're like, oh well, here, let me back rub that.
oh god, no, yeah. Somebody's like, that sounds weird. Change it. Okay, how about Google?
Oh, that's much better.
Much better. Yes. Says the first version of Google was launched in 1996 on a website owned by Stanford. So they didn't even start on their own.
Yeah, right. It was a college.
Stanford backed it
Yeah.
first. Like from the main story, Stanford bought it was a stanford.edu site. So it was google.stanford.edu. It was such a colossal project that it used almost half the bandwidth of the university
Holy
network.
shit.
Finally, in September 97, they registered their own domain. It was then the entrepreneurs and investors, and not just researchers, began to be interested in Google. Notice what they didn't say there
Mhm.
is the intelligence agencies.
Exactly.
They conveniently gloss over the intelligence agencies that became interested in Google. Says at the end of 98, the Google search engine contained 60 million pages, and although its founder still did consider it a trial version, it already rivaled the best search engines of the moment, which was Yahoo, AOL, and MSN. The garage where they housed their office was small, so in 99, Google had no choice but to move to Mountain View, California.
That's quite the move.
Yeah, that's quite the step up. So that's the humble origins, according to
Yes, that seems very humble.
Yes.
Doesn't it? I mean,
according to the Google lore. That's its humble beginnings.
yes.
However, it seems that it wasn't exactly that. Like the truth is that Google has always had ties to the CIA and the NSA. Did you look into this one at all, into Google's founding and history?
I did, yes.
All right,
It was
so
Project Keyhole, wasn't it?
no, that's something totally different.
Oh,
that's
okay.
further in the future.
Oh,
That's in like
okay.
the 2000s.
Oh, okay, okay.
Google was basically straight up funded by the
CIA.
CIA and NSA at its startup. So it said, this is from quartz.com. It says Google's true origin partly lies in the CIA and NSA research grants for mass surveillance. So the story goes like this. The real story goes, computers were becoming a thing, and the internet was becoming a thing, and there was all this information out there, and the NSA and the CIA were already spying on all of us, but they were like, it'd make it a lot easier to spy on people is this new thing called the internet. If we could track what they're doing and their comings and goings on the internet, I mean, this would make our job really, really freaking easy. So it says 2 decades ago, the U.S. intelligence community worked closely with Silicon Valley in an effort to track citizens in cyberspace. And Google is at the heart of that origin story. Some of the research that led to Google's ambitious creation was funded and coordinated by a research group established by the intelligence community to find ways to track individuals and groups online. The intelligence community hoped the nation's leading computer scientists could take non-classified information and user data, combine it with what would become known as the internet, and begin to create for-profit commercial enterprises to suit the needs of both the intelligence community and the public. They hoped to direct the supercomputing revolution from the start in order to make sense of what millions of human beings did inside this digital information network. So at the start of the internet, they're like, we can do something with this.
Right.
This could be good. We don't even have to follow them around while they're shopping. We can just like have their information sent directly to us. Apparently the internet itself was kind of started by the U.S. defense because it started with a bunch of like military mainframe computers that were all hooked together.
Yeah.
And so the internet itself started.
Yeah, was I watching the other? Trey and I, we were watching Transformers, and this was like in '83, and one of the Transformers was injured. He's like, I need to get on the network and find a user. And like he like kind of patched into the phone line, and it like called over to some kid on his computer. And Jen's like, they had the internet back in the 80s, and I'm like,
the military did.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I said. I said, well, the military's been using it since the 70s, and she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. So yes, it's been there.
G.I. Joe or Transformers was just military propaganda of the time.
It was.
Says intelligence gathering may have been their world, but the CIA and NSA had come to realize that their future was likely to be profoundly shaped outside the government because they were basically their budgets were getting cut left and right, and you know how the government kind of lags behind the actual world, which is why we should let the government take over all the industries.
Right, yeah, because that makes things go much better.
Yes, which is why the intelligence agencies are constantly going to the private sector for their technology, because the public sector could do such a better job. Does that make much sense to you at all?
No, not at all.
It's like, we should just make it all government owned and government sponsored. It's like, then why do you keep coming to us for your help?
Exactly, because there's no innovation in the government.
Says it was a time when the military and intelligence budgets within the Clinton administration were in jeopardy. So, like I said, they were cutting budgets and stuff. So they began requiring cooperation between the government and the private supercomputing companies. Says to do this, they began reaching out to scientists at American universities who were creating this supercomputing revolution. These scientists were developing ways to do what no single group of human beings sitting at a workstation in the NSA and CIA could ever hope to do: gather huge amounts of data and make intelligent sense of it. So, I mean, not only do they got to gather the information, they also have to sort it and process it and make it like make sense to a human. So they realized the potential in this computer shit. Let me scroll down because, again, we can't go through all of this. It says by the mid-90s, the intelligence community was seeding funding to the most promising supercomputing efforts across academia, guiding the creation of efforts to make massive amounts of information useful for both the private sector as well as the intelligence community. Do you think they cared about the private sector? No, they're like, no, we want in on that.
Like, you know what this would really work good with?
Us.
Yeah.
They funded these computer scientists through an unclassified, highly compartmentalized program that was managed for the CIA and NSA by large military and intelligence contractors. It was called the Massive Digital Data System Project, MDDS project. It was introduced to several dozen leading computer scientists at Stanford, Caltech, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, Harvard, and others. It described what the CIA, NSA, and DARPA hoped to achieve. The research would largely be funded and managed by unclassified science agencies like the NSF, which would allow the architecture to be scaled up in the private sector if it managed to achieve what the intelligence communities hoped for. So it says not only are activities becoming more complex, but changing demands require that the intelligence communities process different types as well as larger volumes of data. This is in the MDDS papers that they were talking about. Says over the next few years, the program's stated aim was to provide more than a dozen grants of several $1 million each to advance this research concept. Then it gets into the end goal, I guess. The research arm of the CIA and NSA hoped that the best computer science minds in academia could identify what they called birds of a feather. Just as geese fly together in large V shapes, flocks of sparrows, blah, 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 they predict that like-minded groups of humans would move together online. So basically tracking the terrorist groups online.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, the things that they're talking about doing now, they had that idea back then. They called it this birds of a feather project, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, these white supremacist groups, or oh, these brown terrorist groups. I mean, they thought that with the emerging internet and communication online, they're like, well, these people are going to start to form online communities.
Right.
And so they're like, let's look into this.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, you know what would be even better is if we started the communities and they came to us.
Says they predicted that potential terrorists would communicate with each other in this new global connected world. Then it gets into the founders of Google, which was Sergey Brin and Larry Page. Says computer science boy wonders. Says in 95, one of the first and most promising MDDS grants, which is that program that I was talking about, went to a computer science research team at Stanford University with a decade-long history of working with the NSF and DARPA grants. Says a couple different grants here. It says both grants funded research by 2 grad students who were making rapid advance in web page rankings, as well as tracking and making sense of user queries. Future Google co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page. So the CIA's MDDS grants straight up funded this Brin and Page.
So they bought them the little garage.
Basically, yeah. Says the research by Brin and Page under these grants became the heart of Google. So with CIA money, they produced Google. But it says people using search functions to find precisely what they wanted inside a very large data set. The intelligence community, however, saw a slightly different benefit in their research. Those two, not the CIA's, those two's research, the benefit that they got out of it was, could the network be organized so efficiently that individual users could be uniquely identified and tracked? So,
yeah.
I mean,
data mining.
Do you think they're these evil like intelligence people, or do you think they're just like, oh, this big government funding to help us do what we're doing, and we just got to share some of the information?
But that's been scientists through time. I mean, you think that the guys who were like, hey, we can split atoms, thought that eventually
that was super compartmentalized too. Just the way they were talking, this MDDS program was extremely compartmentalized. So a lot of the people probably had no idea what they were even working on. And then they put it all together and created the atomic bomb or created this spy network, online spy network.
Yeah. Did you ever see that movie Real Genius with Val Kilmer? It's an 80s movie. They're like these geniuses in school. And so basically their professor gets them to like create a laser. And so they create a laser and they just think that the laser is cool. Well, he had a different group working on a tracking system so that they could direct and aim the laser the way they wanted to. And so basically you had these different groups working on a weapon system, and they had no idea what they were doing. And that sounds exactly like what they always do.
Yeah, it's everything that they do involves this
because
compartmentalization.
With scientists are like, hey, we have a breakthrough. Let's keep going down and see what happens. And then
you get like a government agency that's like, oh, that's really cool. What if we gave you a shit ton of money to help you with that? Well, obviously we're gonna.
And then they're like, well, that would work great with these guys working over here on this project.
The only stipulation is you let us in on some of your research.
You let us have your research, and then you let us do what we want with it afterwards.
And I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure Google, but a lot of these companies, I'm sure Google was too, the NSA offered their data, so their collected data on humans.
Oh, sure.
To you in like trade for your technology and data to them. So it's like kind of inbreed and sharing of the data.
So they feel like, oh, we're peers.
Yeah. Right? And so they got to use that data to incorporate into Google and like help their search queries and stuff like that in their algorithms and stuff. So yeah, I mean, they funded it, and then also they assisted in the like the data building of it. So this goes on to say, the final thing in this article I want to read, it says, the CIA and NSA funded an unclassified, compartmentalized program designed from its inception to spur something that looks almost exactly like Google. So what do you think of this? Google's humble beginnings now.
Yeah, well, it definitely makes you look at it with, like much more weary. Again, it's charming. Two guys created up in their garage, but then when you're like, oh, but they had CIA funding, that kind of puts a different spin on it.
Yeah, it's just interesting how we have this direct connection to the intelligence community that is just so vastly ignored in their humble origin story. Like back on that first one, it just says it was entrepreneurs and investors and not just researchers. It doesn't ever say, oh yeah, the CIA was very interested in this too and began investing in it too.
And I'm sure if you clicked on Google's page, about us, it doesn't say anything about.
What's interesting is apparently the MDDS program touts that they were kind of the front runner for Google, but Google doesn't say anything about MDDS in there. So it's just like, one is saying, yes, it's connected, but the other is like, no, let's just ignore that.
Well, if they came out and be like, welcome to this search designed almost totally by the CIA.
Yeah.
Would you like to use our system now?
Right. Brought to you by the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States, spying on you since 1960, whatever.
Be like, actually, I'll try Lycos. Thank you.
Is Alta Vista still around? Bing? Anything? I don't know. Not even Bing, because isn't that Microsoft?
I think so, yeah.
No, we don't want that either.
Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves. Is that still a thing?
I don't know.
Again, we let Jeeves down.
Yes.
So we talked again a few weeks ago on the Dead Internet episode. We talked about how Google used to be amazing, and we're just like, what happened? I don't know. The government infiltrated and made it worse. Well, it seems that the government from the start was infiltrated into it. So this whole like Google altering your views to like influence elections or influence this or push this narrative and this agenda, that's now what Google has become. Like, is that just maybe the intelligence community is calling in their chips? It's like, how we funded you from the start, and you want to exist today if it wasn't for us. Now we want you to do something for us. We want you to change the algorithm so people are looking over here, not over here. So, and if you don't, we might have to let it slip that that we funded you, or maybe they're still funding them.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe Google's just that woke now that they're like, no, maybe they're just that in bed with it now that they're like, no, you're right. We'll do that for
I'm
you.
sure it is. I mean, do you really think, the parent company ABC, you think they're developing smart cities without any thought of what the government tracking can be? I mean, and again, I'm pretty sure they're probably using government information to even figure out how to create that algorithm.
Oh, they are. Yeah. It's like combining data and stuff, the same as what happened with Google here. So let's move to another. Have you ever heard of a project called LifeLog?
No.
All right, let's talk about LifeLog, because this one might blow your mind.
Sounds like a Fitbit thing.
It does kind of. I didn't share this one with you because I wanted to get your reaction here in real time. So this one says, in the aftermath of 9/11, so nice coming off of 9/11 holiday that we had, we can talk about 9/11. In the aftermath of September 11th attacks, DARPA, in close collaboration with the U.S. intelligence community, specifically the CIA, began developing a pre-crime approach to combating terrorism.
Oh, I did read about this one.
Known as Total Information Awareness, or TIA. So basically, they want all your information.
Right.
The purpose of TIA was developed as an all-seeing military surveillance apparatus. Scary enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
Them looking at everything and basically like predicting what you're going to do next.
Right. It's like a Minority Report.
Yeah, that's exactly what it tied it into, was Minority Report. It says the official logic behind TIA was that invasive surveillance of the entire U.S. population was necessary to prevent terrorist attacks, bioterrorist events, and even naturally occurring disease outbreaks. So precursor to COVID-19.
Right.
So the again, we talked last week how the things that came out of 9/11 morphed into what we dealt with during COVID-19.
Right.
The invasive, the privacy invasion, that came from post 9/11 projects and post 9/11 theology,
and even the creating or directing the flow of information.
Yes. So it talks a little more about TIA. It says the man who led it during its relatively brief existence was John Poindexter, best known for being Ronald Reagan's national security advisor during the Iran-Contra affair.
That's scary.
And for being convicted of 5 felonies in relation to that scandal. So now he's in charge of this surveillance program.
That's beautiful.
How does that make you feel?
Right. That's probably his payoff for taking the rap.
It says a less well-known activity of the Iran-Contra figures like Poindexter and Oliver North was their development of the main core database to be used in continuity of government protocols. Main core was used to compile a list of U.S. dissidents and potential troublemakers to be dealt with if the COG protocols were ever invoked. They may, like we talk about getting put on a list, they actually have a fucking list. This is the list of potential trouble. It's not, hey, you did something wrong, you're on this. No, it's like these guys, we got to keep an eye. And so if something actually goes down, these are the first people we're going to look at, these people on the list. Says these protocols could be invoked for a variety of reasons, excuse me, including widespread public opposition to U.S. military intervention abroad, widespread internal dissent, or vaguely defined moments of national crisis or time of panic, i.e. COVID-19. Americans were not informed if their names were ever placed on the list, and a person could be added to the list for merely having attended a protest in the past or failing to pay their taxes.
Wow.
So you ask, are we on a list? We're absolutely fucking on a list
on the
right now.
list.
Absolutely. CD is here. CD,
Hey,
how's
CD?
it going? CD says it's allowed to exist because the government found benefit in its existence. Yes, that's like every other company out there. So, yes. It goes on to say the program, the TIA program, met considerable outrage, citizen outrage after it was revealed to the public in early 2003, because it says the surveillance effort would kill privacy in America because every aspect of our lives would be cataloged, and we're fighting terror by terrifying U.S. citizens. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So in response to the outrage, they changed the name from Total information awareness to terrorist information awareness. So it's still TIA, but we're focusing on terrorists. But as
we're focusing on terrorists,
but as we see today, we're all fucking terrorists.
Right.
So they can still use that shit on all of us. Says soon after TIA was initiated, a similar program, DARPA program, was taking shape under the direction of a close friend of Poindexter's, DARPA program manager Douglas Gage. Gage's project was LifeLog, and it sought to build a database tracking a person's entire existence, which includes an individual's relationships and communications, phone calls, mail, emails, all that shit. Their media consumption habits, their purchases, and much more. So basically building this giant digital record, like permanent digital record of your relationship status, of your memories, your events, your experiences. What does that sound like to you?
Sounds like they're tracking everything you're doing.
But is there something out there that tracks your relationship status, your memories,
Facebook.
your experiences? Yeah, it sounds a lot like Facebook.
Yeah.
This LifeLog sounds very eerily similar, tracking everything you do.
Right.
Because people willingly put that out there. So
look what I had for dinner today.
Yeah, look where I'm going today.
Posting from this block in Kansas City.
Yes. LifeLog, per Gage and his supporters, would create a permanent and searchable electronic diary of a person's entire life, which DARPA argued could be used to create next-generation digital assistants and offer near-perfect digital memory. Gage insisted even after the program was shut down that individuals would have had complete control over their own data
Oh, of course.
collection efforts. So
Yeah.
you could opt out of it, obviously. Even though we didn't know it was a thing.
Right.
We did have the ability to opt out if we knew it existed.
Well, you don't have to share your location.
Says they could decide when to turn sensors on or off and decide who will share the data. Bullshit. It says the information that LifeLog gleaned from an individual's every interaction with technology would be combined with information obtained from a GPS transmitter that tracked and documented the person's location, audio-visual sensors, as well as biometric monitors that gauge the person's health.
Wow.
So basically, it says the medical research and early detection of an emerging epidemic. So they wanted to all this shit. Basically, sounds like what was it? The digital IDs that they wanted to impose.
I mean, could you imagine that it transmitting like, oh, you got a fever today? We're just gonna let them know about that, you know?
So it talks about how this got a lot of pushback too. So they end up closing the doors on this. But it says in the years after LifeLog was canceled, that person that founded it began working for DARPA and the intelligence communities again. Related. So this is just like this is a sidebar here.
Yeah.
Related AI research product. So he's working on intelligence AI projects. In addition, the AI lab at MIT, what the fuck? Go away. Was intimately connected with the 80s corporation and DARPA contractor called Thinking Machines. Do you know what Thinking Machines became?
I don't.
Thinking Machines was the precursor for IBM computers.
Oh, okay.
Who was it whose mom got him involved in IBM before he went on to do his own thing?
Was it
Bill Gates.
Okay.
Bill Gates' mom got him a job working for IBM. So, I mean, it's just a
revolving door.
It's just a side note, but it's just like, well, there's the Bill Gates connection too, because Thinking Machines was a known DARPA contractor, and all our computers in the military were IBM or Thinking Machines.
Yeah.
They absolutely were, and so I have a feeling that Bill Gates has plenty of connections there too.
It seems like, you know, you look at these smart companies, these tech companies, and the intelligence community and government. It seems like it's the same revolving door as we looked at with like the NED and you know, BlackRock and all this stuff.
I'm going to get into the revolving door of this too, because I have one specific example just to show the revolving door that this involves, because it's exactly that. It's like they start here, they go there, and they work their way here, and then they move back here, and it's all the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
So Thinking Machines was founded by lab luminaries, including Danny Hillis, Marvin Minsky, and Eric Lander, who all three happen to be revealed as close associates of Jeffrey Epstein, no less.
My.
Who generously donated to MIT.
Did not see that connection coming.
Yeah. I didn't either, but I felt I had to point that you can't, and they just breeze past that, and then they move on.
Yeah, right.
So, back to LifeLog. So, it goes on to say, after LifeLog program shut down, critics were worried that it would, like TIA, continue to do the same thing, but under a different name. One of the things that it kind of merged into was this project called Palantir, which was started by Peter Thiel. And we'll get into Peter Thiel on down, because just remember that name, Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
But he started this Palantir project, which was more data mining than any of the others of these combined. It's basically, we want to predict the future through data mining.
Yeah.
So,
and Palantir, you know, is from Lord of the Rings.
Yes, which was like the all-seeing, like
all-seeing eye.
Mhm.
That's scary shit.
Yeah, and these are nerds too, because they come up with like Palantir, and there's like a project called the Jedi Project, and it's ridiculous. But moving on, I want to specifically focus on LifeLog for another minute or two, because you probably didn't hear this part. Let me scroll down. Says the shutting of TIA and DARPA had an impact on several related programs, which were also dismantled in the wake of public outrage over DARPA's post 9/11 programs. One of these was LifeLog. It goes on to say, the firestorm of criticism over LifeLog took its program manager, Doug Gage, by surprise, and Gage has continued to assert the program's to the program's critics, holy shit, completely mischaracterized the goals and ambitions of LifeLog. Despite Gage's protests, those of LifeLog's would-be researchers and other supporters, the project was publicly nixed on February 4th, 2004.
Publicly.
Yeah, it was nixed, it was canceled, it was ended February 4th, 2004. Do you know what else happened February 4th, 2004?
Thinking rise of Facebook.
Facebook became a company that day, that exact day. LifeLog that tracks your freaking every move, your comings, your goings, your what you eat, your relationship status. It goes away, and suddenly on that exact same day, Facebook became a company.
Wow.
It launched its website on February 4th, 2004.
That's crazy.
How does that make you feel?
Really paranoid.
So, do you think? Have you seen the movie Social Network, the Facebook movie?
Yes.
So now do you buy the story of this like computer nerd that like stole a couple bits of programming data and then formed this giant thing with nobody's help in his dorm, not in a garage, but in his dorm, writing on the windows with a crayon or something?
No.
Or do you do you think it's just mere coincidence that this thing that looked exactly like the CIA's version of Facebook, or at least the things that the CIA wanted it to be, is exactly what Facebook does? It just coincidentally happened the same day?
No, I do not. I do not believe that's a coincidence at all.
You would think, one would think
that they'd at least wait a day
that
or
they
a week.
would
So it didn't seem so obvious.
Yeah, they would be like, no, you hold off for a couple days, and Zuckerberg's like, I want to do this now.
Yeah, right. Well, and it really makes it seem like they kind of just were like, hey, we heard you're working on a project. We got some information that may be helpful for you.
Yeah, we'll share our, again, like with Google, we'll share, we'll fund, we'll finance, and
all you gotta do is put 2 and 2 together.
But like, you can't find any evidence of like CIA grants or anything like that with Facebook. Maybe it's because the CIA didn't help it. Maybe the CIA is what created it. Like, did Zuckerberg ever even create it? Or is he just like some patsy, like poster child? Hey, we need another nerd to stand out in front of us to say, hey, look at this thing that I did. So I guess my question is Facebook sharing like we think Facebook shares with the intelligence communities, or is Facebook actually the intelligence communities?
That's a valid question. Yeah, maybe it is exactly the intelligence committee, or following people.
Maybe
that's valid.
Maybe we're grasping at straws, and that's fine. But
but
when you look at what Facebook is and what it's turned into,
and when you look at Zuckerberg,
and that was another thing. It's like I've presupposed that Zuckerberg's not a real person for a long time now. You watch him talk, I'm like, that's an AI bot for sure. That guy's got to be a bot. So maybe he's an AI, like a CIA funded AI bot that they just put up on a screen, and he's not actually anywhere. He's just there, or he's like a hologram or something. They have more intel. Like their technology is way beyond what we know exists out there. So maybe he isn't a hologram.
It really makes you rethink Meta, doesn't it?
Right. Yes. If Facebook was directly from the CIA, then what is Meta?
Right.
What is the goal of Meta besides to, I don't know, like, they don't have to track all our physical movement at that point, because all our movements will be done in the CIA's little
then they will
playground.
Actually be able to track your thoughts.
Yes. That's scary.
That is.
So another side note, I guess. Do you know who the first investors were? Do you remember who the first investors were in Facebook? Like the first people besides Zuckerberg and his other Jewish friend,
Justin Timberlake.
It was Justin Timberlake, but it was who Justin Timberlake played. It wasn't actually.
Yeah.
Sean Parker of Napster.
Okay.
He was a computer genius.
Yes.
Like a child prodigy. He hacked into like government computers and then would email and be like, hey, I found all these holes. The FBI raided his house at one point. Did you know that at some point of time, the CIA tried to recruit him at like 17 years old?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
But supposedly the story goes he turned it down and then went on to create Napster.
Sure.
Now, do you turn down the CIA when they try to recruit you?
I don't think so, because can't imagine you being successful in life if that happens.
No, no, or you'd end up in jail. Like, it's usually a tit for tat. Like, you either go to jail for hacking or you come work for us.
Exactly.
And they're never going to come out and say Sean Parker worked for the CIA, because that discredits everything that Sean Parker stood for in his Napster days, which was like piracy and stuff like that. So, but I wouldn't be at all shocked.
But that explains how he got around the FBI warnings.
Yes. And then that again ties the CIA in a way back to Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. He was the first investor in Facebook.
Okay.
Sean Parker. Sean Parker, do you know who he brought in as the first outside investor? Peter Thiel, who we talked about of
Palantir.
Palantir. He was actually the co-founder of PayPal. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yes.
Yes. So him and Elon Musk connections, Peter Thiel.
Yes.
It all ties together.
Yeah. Thinking Elon Musk is the white savior. Yeah.
Yeah. So it all ties back together. So now we're on track with Peter Thiel and this Palantir company, because that one's really scary.
Yeah.
But I don't want to move on too quickly. I feel like we see that Facebook does this, and we see that Google is this, but then does that mean the others aren't, or do you think they're all just as in bed with it?
I think they're all in bed with it.
Like, what about Twitter? Do we know? Like, I didn't find much info on Twitter, but
yeah,
it seems that they kind of go the way of
and the Twitter guy seems like he's very much willing to play ball with the government.
Yeah, he was in on that whole war games.
Yeah.
Rig the election thing that we talked about, as well as Mark Zuckerberg. So I don't know.
Definitely Twitter, and Instagram's owned by Meta, so
they're in on it. Yeah. And Google owns everything. Google owns YouTube, and Google owns all the shit.
Who owns Reddit?
I'm not sure who owns Reddit.
Oh, okay.
So I know the alien guy on the little logo. The aliens own Reddit, so we're cool there.
That's safe.
Yes. Let's keep going. Let's get into Peter Thiel, because it still has Facebook connections, right?
Yes.
Peter Thiel is the worst of the worst, in my opinion, when it comes to this, because he's all on board with this data tracking. Apparently, he was a pro-Trumper too, which is really scary to me.
That is scary.
He was one of the original investors of Facebook. He was a PayPal. He was a big tech giant. He was a Trump backer, diehard Trump backer. But his newest product makes Facebook and the Google shit and all that shit. It just makes it look like peanuts compared to what he's working on now, which is that Palantir company. And this is the one you actually read about. So the ads that pop up on this are gross. So this is, I don't know, I can't read that far. The WashingtonStandard.com. It says, yes. Okay. So this one's titled Peter Thiel and Palantir, the CIA-backed tech giant that's sifting and sorting your info for the government. Apparently, this has Israeli intelligence backing too.
That doesn't surprise me.
So this article doesn't talk about it, but it's out there. I mean, there's weird connections out there that can be made. It says, yes, while a tyrannical government that violates the law and searches and seizes without probable cause and a warrant are realities that we should be concerned about, there's a tremendous threat coming from a company called Palantir, which is backed by the CIA. Palantir presents themselves as, so this is their slogan, we build products that make people better at their most important work.
I wonder who came up with that.
Is that not as vague as it comes?
Yeah, right.
So what do you guys do? What's Palantir? We make products that make you better at working. So what product? All the products.
Yeah, all of them. You name one. Name one. Pencils.
It says the kind of work you read about on the front page of newspapers, not just the technology section.
I was going to say, usually it's the front page of the papers. There's things you hope not to read.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the front page of the newspaper, but apparently that's what he helps with. That kind of work.
That's
okay.
Scary.
Says, indeed, we have read about some of their work on front page of newspapers, including the trial of the Oregon protests of 2016, where Palantir software was used to aid in sorting data for the FBI's information they gathered from Facebook. So these guys work directly. They have this massive data sorting software that sorts all this data collected. He does it for the FBI, the CIA, to lock people up for protests and shit. That's part of what this is. That's just a small, minor part of what this is. Says the CIA itself was an early investor in the startup through InQtel, the agency's venture capital branch, which we're going to dig more into. But again, that's the CIA invest directly into startups through this InQtel, which is separate from the CIA, but directly funded by the CIA. So, but they're not the same. It's like the NAD. They're an NGO, non-governmental organization, but they're solely funded by the government. So InQtel is not. They specify they are not part of the CIA, but all their funding comes
from the CIA.
Yes, and all their orders come directly from the CIA as well. It says Palantir has landed at least $1.2 billion in federal contracts since 2009, but will not release the names of its government clientele. So they have all this government clientele, like specifically, let me read some of them. As of 2013, it included the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the Center for Disease Control, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, Special Ops Command, West Point, and the IRS.
Oh, wow.
But they don't release all of their information. This is just what we know of. Wow. It says up to 50% of its business is with the government sector. InQtel, the CIA's venture arm, was an early investor. It says Palantir tracks everyone from potential terrorist suspects to corporate fraudsters. I guess Bernie Madoff was imprisoned through the help of Palantir. So this goes way back.
That is. Wow.
It also helps with child traffickers and what they refer to as subversives. So that list again that we're talking about is like the would-be, could-be potential criminals based on their actions and thoughts and stuff. But it is all done by using prediction, it says. So it gathers it doesn't just gather this data. Palantir isn't like gather this data and see something that's wrong and say, hey, this guy said this, so he's obviously part of. No, it gathers all this data and uses the AI and algorithms to predict what they're going to do, and then they use that to convict these people. Through it's like future reading,
right? Yeah, predictive. Back to that Minority Report shit.
Yeah,
which again is scary. I mean, how can you convict on someone's thoughts?
The thought police.
Well,
Palantir
I would be in fucking jail if people read my thoughts.
Yeah, imagine if they ran our data through the algorithms. I mean, they come up with really weird shit.
Right?
And some of the things I Google, it's just broad. It's so broad that I think Palantir would just probably melt down.
Yeah, right. But nope, not doing it.
Says yet Palantir and its owners claim they are all about protecting the rights of the people from government surveillance.
Bullshit.
How do you tout that?
Yeah, right.
When they're giving it and directly working and funded by the intelligence services, they're giving your information, but they're all about protecting your rights from the, like, what do they do? Just give them anonymous information?
Right.
Like, that's the only thing I could come up with that they're helping with.
But even that, it's like somebody is still invading your privacy. Somebody is still watching you. It doesn't matter if they're not, well, we're doing it so that the government doesn't do it. You're still doing it.
Pretty much.
Right?
The co-founder said, I didn't sign up for the government to know when I smoke a joint or have an affair. But basically, we're fine, like, finding out that.
But we'll tell them whenever you do it.
Yes, exactly. Says in the same article, Peter Thiel, lays out that Palantir's mission with privacy in mind is to reduce terrorism while preserving civil liberties.
Wow. How is that even possible?
It's fucking hilarious, the things that they think that they believe in, or that at least try to say they stand for. Apparently, Edward Snowden revealed that Palantir was quick to deny it had any connection to the NSA spy program known as PRISM, which shares a code name with one of its software products. The current iteration of Palantir's website includes an entire section on privacy and civil liberties. Oh, it's gross. And
well, and it's like, I mean, what's that saying? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
yeah, something.
I mean, and that's exactly what this is. It's like, oh well, you know, we're doing it so we're protecting you guys, but we're still taking care of crime. Well, I'm sorry, they're still using your information,
data.
right?
Yeah,
they're still using your data.
Your collected data that I did not give you permission to use, willingly give you permission to use. You're collecting that and using it to predict what I'm going to do, that I'm going to commit a crime. Apparently, their security though is tight.
Oh, sure.
Like they are in like these. Their servers are in these buildings that not even cell signal can get through.
Don't they keep the telepaths in the bath?
Yes. So it's inaccessible, completely hack proof and all this shit because they don't want their information getting out.
Right. Oh,
which is actually your information.
Exactly.
Says it's hard to square this purported commitment to privacy with proof garnered from documents provided by Edward Snowden that Palantir has helped expand and accelerate the NSA's global spy network. So it talks about this X-key score. It says, notably, the partnership has included building software specifically to facilitate, augment, and accelerate the use of X-key score, one of the most expansive and potentially intrusive tools in the NSA's arsenal.
Beautiful.
According to Snowden, documents published by The Guardian in 2013, X-key score is, by the NSA's own admission, its widest-reaching program, capturing nearly everything a typical user does on the internet.
Jeez.
So, no, they're all about your privacy, but Palantir helped create the software necessary for this X-key score, but all about your privacy.
Right.
So here's what X-key score did. It collected communication, not only including emails, chats, and web browsing traffic, but also pictures, documents, voice calls, webcam photos, web searches, advertising traffic, social media traffic, botnet traffic, logged keystrokes, computer network exploitation targeting, intercepted username and passwords, file uploads to online services, Skype sessions, and more. But they're all about your privacy.
Absolutely.
That's this Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, the first outside investor of Facebook. So again, we have this government connection, this NSA, CIA connection back to Facebook through this guy who is now, he was like, Facebook doesn't do enough for me.
Yeah, right.
We should be going harder. We should be collecting more data. And so now he is directly collecting everything.
Yeah.
And helping the intelligence agencies collect everything. Oh, let's see. Is there anything more on this?
Wow.
So it says these documents show how Palantir applies Silicon Valley's playbook to domestic law enforcement. New users are welcomed with discounted hardware and federal grants, sharing their own data in return for access to others. That's what I was talking about. Like the NSA gives these grants and says, hey, we'll give you data to help build up your algorithms, your data collection, and then you in turn share your data back with us. It's a win-win situation
for them.
Says when enough jurisdictions join Palantir's interconnected web of police departments, government agencies, and databases, the resulting data trove resembles a pay-to-access social network or a Facebook of crime that's both invisible and largely unaccountable to citizens whose behavior it tracks. So again, it's that list, but not only a list, this is like an entire social media profile of you that you are not allowed to see.
Right.
And you're not allowed to like hold them accountable for the data that they gather on you. So we all have our own like black Facebook accounts out there. That's like, just in case. It sorts it so precisely too that it can just like type in your name and pull up the shit on you.
Yeah, and it pulls up like pictures.
Yeah.
And
it's like
locations.
So like, oh, we saw this guy here. Well, first let's do some facial recognition. Oh, it pulls up this. Well, pull up his Palantir account. He pulls it up. It's like, well, this guy ate here and he did this and he called these people and he looked up this. So they have all this information already gathered on you. I mean, makes the law enforcement's job super
They
easy.
know exactly where to pick you up.
Yeah, it's like, do you got any evidence on this guy? It's like, hey, wait a second. Click, click, click. Here's like 18 pages of evidence.
Yeah. And with the Pfizer warrants, they don't need to actually have evidence to get a warrant on you.
Yeah,
right?
FISA, not Pfizer.
Sorry. Pfizer warrant. And
Same thing.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, they don't need to have, information to get the warrant anymore. They can just get the warrant and they can build a case off of you just based on what they pick up off your social media.
Right. So Palantir was their first backers of Palantir was that In-Q-Tel that you talked about. That's going back to that Facebook article. I'm not going to dig back into it, but they were their initial investors. So they can say, hey, we're not part of this. But again, the CIA started the funding for this. Like the first backer, the first financial backer was specifically the CIA.
Right.
And like I said, 50% of their clientele is intelligence agency or government agencies or the Department of Defense, DARPA, whatever.
Right.
It's like most of their work is for these government agencies that we don't want to give our information.
And again, they tout it. I mean, like you said, they got Q in the freaking name, so they're saying, hey, this is where we get our toys. This is where we get our tools to use against you.
Yeah, but we're going to get into break, and then we'll talk more about the In-Q-Tel. I've got a little bit about that because we kind of mentioned that they were the startup investments. Right. And so I want to dig a little bit into that just because. And then we got a couple other things. I wanted to talk about the revolving door that you brought up. And some other stuff. I even want to get into cryptocurrency because there's some shit out there about like Bitcoin being connected to the CIA as well.
Wait till you get to the Pokemon Go shit.
Oh, yeah. Wait till we talk about Pokemon Go. Yeah. And this is not a joke. That game that was popular.
Yeah. That everybody was playing.
All the millennials were playing.
I mean, not me, but everybody.
All the like 20-some-year-old, like younger millennials were like wandering around and
roaming around the city,
getting hit by cars and like trespassing on people's property.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that might have some connection too.
Right.
We'll get into that. We're gonna take a few minutes break first so we can let our brains wind down real quick before we get right back into the crazy shit. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about more crazy stuff. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have you ever thought that maybe voting, maybe all this politics constantly surrounding you is not the way to achieve freedom in your life? Hi, I'm Remso W. Martinez, and I ask myself the same question. That's why I'm on a journey to find true freedom in my lifetime. From learning about financial independence, to new ways to develop rugged individualism, to amazing guests living strange, crazy, amazing lifestyles that you've only thought might be real, but actually are. Go ahead and check out my new show, On the Run with Remso W. Martinez at the We Are Libertarians Network. You can find On the Run with Remso W. Martinez on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works. Come on down and let's discover how to achieve real freedom in your life together.
Hey everybody, I just want to take this time to give a big shout out to the very first sponsor of the Break the Bell podcast. That is Goulash Media. They can be found at goulashmedia.net. Goulash Media specializes in graphic design, web design, audio recordings, video work, wedding videos, music videos, even political campaign videos. Goulash Media caters to the little guy with the big vision. You can check them out at goulashmedia.net. That's GOULASH media.net.
Time for you. You've got too much on your mind to be so conscious and not just believing every sorry gone away. And it's about time address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. Because I know you can handle it. To face the truth of the matter, it's still so much better to leave the light and drag it to your grave. Because you see what to make of this. How you can turn your own tables and work this. And take advantage of your failure like you planned to anyway. And it's the thoughts when we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. You're still alive, but you've been dead inside for a long time. And I understand why. But you did this to yourself. You did this to them. You don't even remember the name. Why should anybody remember you? Why should anyone give you another shot? You know the wrong. You know you deserve to be forgotten. Now you're everything you always disguised. You always reveal to you who it is and lies. All this effort to cover up what you've done. We already know. We already see. Wake up and be better before you hit the back. We address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. I know it's not a good time for you. You've got too much on your mind to be so conscious and not just believing every sorry gone away. And it's about time we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. Because I know you can handle it. To face the truth of the matter, it's still so much better to leave the light than drag it to your grave. Because you see what to make of this. How you can turn your own tables and work this. And take advantage of your failure like you planned to anyway. And it's about time we address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. You're still alive, but you've been dead inside for a long time. And I understand why. But you did this to yourself. You did this to them. You don't even remember the name. Why should anybody remember you? Why should anyone give you another shot? You know the wrong. You know you deserve to be forgotten. Now you're everything you always disguised. You always reveal to you who it is and lies. All this effort to cover up what you've done. We already know. We already see. Wake up and be better before you hit the back. We address the situation and begin to get back to you. We hold a candle like vigil for your self-respect. Reputation destroyed by what you can expect to be. The faceless in between. the time for you. You've got too much on your mind to be so conscious and not just believing every sorry thrown away. And it's about time we address this issue.
And we're back. And Bill is ready.
Mostly.
Mostly ready. It's like, I'm like, you ready? Yes. And as soon
And all of a
as
sudden, everything starts
everything
falling
fell
down.
down, it's like, okay, we're not ready.
Just,
But we're
just
ready
stop.
now.
Just stop and sit.
We're back, and we're talking about the incestual love affair / conception of the intelligence community and
That's good.
big tech.
That's good.
Basically, the intelligence communities got together and had a love affair between themselves and bore these like big tech companies.
Yes.
And then,
And now you're in love with them.
well, then their big tech companies got in bed with their parent Intel communities and formed other tech companies. And then they got in bed with their parents and grandparents and formed these like other intelligence tech companies.
It's like a digital soap opera. Everybody's
really-
fucking everybody.
Everybody is absolutely fucking everybody. So it's the way we like it, I guess. So what
Yeah.
do you think it's so far?
It's it makes me wonder why I'm still on social media.
Yeah, or Google at that.
Right?
Or
Yeah, anything digital actually.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
what
what's the
options
alternative?
do we have?
I was gonna say, I mean, in this world, to exist, you have to be online.
Mhm.
You know, but
Well, we found out at the first half that basically the intelligence community created the online experience, the internet.
the search engine, the most popular,
The most
search
popular
engine.
one they started, like,
Yes.
helped found. We have reason to believe that Facebook is the direct,
love child of
not even left. It's the CIA's lifelog turned into
yes.
a
It's
private
like they just put
corporation.
on a fake pair of glasses and a mustache.
Yeah,
Say, what? No,
basically.
LifeLog? Shh, never
Never
heard
heard
of
of it. I mean, lifelog kind of sounds like Facebook,
Yeah,
pretty much.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I wonder, is MySpace in there, or is
No,
Tom
Tom,
totally?
no.
No, Tom's innocent.
That's why Tom went away. They probably
Yeah.
pushed him out
They
of the
probably
game.
did. They probably killed him.
They're like, yeah,
Do we have any confirmation on Tom?
I mean, that's true. Is there? I mean, Tom starts the social media, and then the CIA is like, "We're going to do this too.
Yeah,
Do you
we
want
can
in
do it."
on the ground floor of this?" And Tom's like, "No." And they're like,
He's
"Okay,
like, no,
you're
I'm
out.
keeping it
You're
pure.
gone."
And they're like,
Yep, two bullets to the back of the head,
Yep,
suicide
suicide.
style. Yes, exactly. So what we found out in the first half is a lot of these startups, so a lot of these big tech companies, were funded through the CIA's investment firm, which is InQtel. Which Q is? Do you think Q, like the QAnon came? Like, do you think maybe there's
No.
some connection there?
no.
I mean, there's reason to believe that.
yeah. Well, I'm sure. Well, hold
There's
on.
reason to
Peter
think-
Thiel is a Trumper.
That's true too.
Oh fuck.
We may have just opened up a whole new can. Well, there's a lot of people that think Q is like a
What if
inside,
Peter
like,
Thiel is Q.
what if Peter Thiel is Q indeed? Oh my God, what did we just do? We probably said Q enough time to get
I
us
was
kicked
gonna
off
say,
YouTube. So,
At least
again, they
the show is
talk,
brought to you by the letter Q. By the way,
they talk about how Q's possibly like what's that, controlled opposition
Oh,
or whatever.
right,
So
right.
it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this InQtel a little more because I mean, we keep kind of bringing it up, but let's just dig a little. Says the CIA's Intel or InQtel is investing in startups that can predict the future. Fantastic.
yeah.
One of those being what was it? Palantir what was the name of?
Oh, Palantir. Yeah.
Palantir, yeah. The Peter Thiel startup.
Yes.
So, and they were specifically trying to predict the future.
Oh yeah.
So this one says we tend to unknowingly or neglectfully expose a lot of our personal data on the internet, and oftentimes it's not our fault. Social networks and digital applications marketed as utility or source of entertainment can also be used for mining data and giving corporations incredible insight into our personal lives. That data is then analyzed, same thing, and stored to develop a profile that decides the best way to target us with advertisements or criminal charges,
Right.
probably.
Yeah, right.
So, it says InQtel's. So it's talking about InQtel being this investor,
Right.
and it has direct Google connection too,
Yes.
and that's that keyhole that you were talking about.
Right.
Says in the early 2000s, the development of Google Earth made geospatial technology an exciting prospect in the tech world. Unsurprisingly, this technology was controversial and banned in some countries due to national security concerns and privacy issues. What is also unsurprising is that it was originally developed by a startup that was funded by InQtel called Keyhole Earth Viewer. Now, Keyhole went on to got sold to Google and became Google Earth. So direct CIA connections between Google and the CIA. Once again,
Right, yeah.
like they bought their Google Earth from a CIA backed.
But again, we have no reason to believe that they ever got out of bed with them.
No, they didn't get. Yeah, they're still deep in bed with them.
Deep.
It says the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, or NGA, was cultivated out of this new technology as a parallel branch to the NSA that focuses on exploiting and analyzing geographical information and activity. So the same thing, the same software program that we get Google Earth from is also paralleled. Again, like we were talking about the parallel Facebook, like the dark Facebook that they have this profile on. Well, Google Earth parallel is being used directly by the NSA to exploit and analyze anybody's geographical activity. Says InQtel's budget started off at $28 million in its first year and has been somewhat hazy ever since. After September 11th, the government's black budget for intelligence agencies increased dramatically, with the CIA now receiving $14.7 billion. InQtel can access this money without having to fully disclose its spending. So yeah, it's completely disconnected from the CIA, but it can tap into CIA funds and not have to disclose any of that funding to the public. But it's definitely separate. So this was interesting to me. It says InQtel, since its inception in '99, continues to fund startups in the tech world, ranging from skincare lines. Why is this investing in skincare lines?
That can now like listen in on your conversations.
Maybe there's like nanobots that are like tracking your biometric information, your medical information through your skin cells.
Damn.
I mean, it's got to be something. It
Yeah,
can't just
well,
be like,
yeah.
we want our personnel to have really smooth skin.
Right, yeah.
It can't be that.
Well, when they're in the Sahara, they need some sunscreen.
Yeah, because it says ranging from skincare lines to naval drone technology. All right, so what's the connection here? I understand the naval drone technology, but skincare lines, what the hell? Says these, but much of its investment goes into data mining. These tools collect, store, and analyze data to create profiles on individuals, like we talked about, the dark Facebook. Says often these programs mine platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to monitor activist protests, influential decision makers, and trends. One day, these algorithms surveil our personal data and activity, and the next, they're being sold to corporations for advertising. So it's like when the CIA is done with the information, all the data troves, they're like, oh, we don't have any use for the rest of this, so we'll sell it off to advertisers.
Right. But they're nonprofit.
Right. Says who is in InQtel. Says it's headed by Gilman Louie. This is interesting to me. Gilman Louie is a former video game designer. It says Louie's connections with board members. He has connections with board members of the venture capital firm that gave Facebook the funding to become the social media juggernaut that it is today. So he's involved with funding of Facebook, not just the first Series A funding, but also the Series B funding, the second round of funding. So it says one connection is with James Breyer, a partner and board member of Excel, the company that invested $12.7 million in Facebook's Series A funding. Louis and Breyer sat together on the board of military defense contractors, known for essentially helping to create email and the internet. Facebook's second round of funding came from a company called Greylock Venture Capital, which was headed by Howard Cox, who also sat on In-Q-Tel's board.
Wow.
So a lot of Facebook's funding, if Facebook wasn't directly derived from the CIA,
it sure
was
has a lot of
very,
connections.
very specifically funded. Not in like the early days, like its first round of
Right.
funding and its second round. It's not like the intelligence decided to get in on it like later on.
Yeah,
No, it's
right.
like right from the
Right.
start. I'd say, what was it? The Palantir. Remember, its earliest investor was In-Q-Tel as well. So it wasn't In-Q-Tel, I guess. It was, but the guy that started or headed In-Q-Tel. No, the Gilman Louis, who headed In-Q-Tel. His companies were promoting and funding Facebook. So it doesn't specifically say In-Q-Tel did, but a lot of their leadership was funding this.
Right.
So
Okay.
probably trying to make some kind of disconnect between the two. Says this was the interesting part. Another interesting connection has been made with Louis and his role with Niantic, the mobile gaming company that created Pokemon Go. Louis was added to the board of the company for his strategic insight in both gaming and venture capital investment. The augmented reality technology for Pokemon Go was also a product of Keyhole Inc., the In-Q-Tel funded startup that became Google Earth. So
that's insane.
So the Keyhole that turned into that the CIA is using to track people, that turned into Google Earth, also was used in Pokemon Go.
Yeah,
so
that's crazy.
So all this geo gaming that you've been doing where you're chasing down these little freaking creatures, there's a good chance the CIA was following you around at the time. Says users of the game are required to allow the program to access personal data ranging from geolocation services to camera access. I forgot about that. You had to have your camera.
Yeah.
So they had the little AI on it.
Yeah.
And it even has the capability to remotely read, modify, or delete files on the user's phone.
Wow.
Did you know that about Pokemon Go? The program can track where users are, where they've been, what they look like, and a multitude of personal information that could be used to create profiles and spy on individuals. This begs the question, is this a beta test for a larger CIA-sponsored program? So was Pokemon Go not... I don't know if it's beta testing. I think that they're just going to keep coming up with these bullshit games that kids are like, oh, yeah, this is great. I'll follow this around.
You're essentially acting as like a on-the-ground drone, right? With the little camera going around town.
Yeah, they can track people around you. They can get geolocations. The whole birds of a feather thing. We can see who's hanging out with who. All this shit. And that's just the Pokemon Go part of it. That's not any of the rest of the shit that we're talking about with Facebook, tracking your every move, tracking your eating habits, your relationship status. Then you've got Google Earth that knows where everybody is.
Well,
you've got
think about that a couple years ago when we found that cool game that we can make ourselves look old.
Right? Well, as soon as I got to thinking about that, I deleted that.
I
off my
did
phone
too
immediately. Says some companies that Q-Intel is investing in. Says Edward Snowden's expose showed that the NSA ability to use metadata to paint a very intrusive image of innocent civilians. This technology could be easily manipulated with deluge of false tweets sent intentionally, cause a panic. So they could send out false tweets on your behalf, is what it sounds like, considering the tweets aren't verified. An attack of this nature could be verified out by hackers or carried out by hackers or even the government itself in false flag operations. That's scary. I mean, in a digital world, it would be really easy to carry out like a digital false flag, I think.
Absolutely.
Says other companies In-Q-Tel has invested in that monitor and analyze social media data include Geofedia, Pathar, and Transvoyant. But one of the most invasive projects is Palantir. Again, it says Palantir in Lord of the Rings is an omniscient crystal ball that can see anything, anywhere, including the past and the future. The company was created by Peter Thiel, founder of PayPal and former board member of Facebook, with other In-Q-Tel venture capitalists. Palantir created a system, much like the premise of the movie Minority Report, there you go, where law enforcement can predict crime before it happens. So that's the whole game of this, is collect all the data. And
Right.
it's not just, I'm sure Palantir is probably like the library to store like the Facebook and the Pokemon Go and the Google Earth data. Palantir is the program, the software that sorts all that and makes sense of it and turns
Right.
it into the profile. So
Yeah.
they all kind of work together.
Right.
I would
they do.
assume.
It's very symbiotic.
So this was the interesting part. And this to me sounds a lot like almost like insider trading, because it says InQtel's business model made it highly successful in a number of ways. It essentially became an indicator of success in the venture capital world, with every dollar of investment from InQtel drawing in more than $9 from the private investors. So private investors see that InQtel is buying into this.
Right.
InQtel buys into this knowing that private investors will flock to it.
Yeah.
And then
so
the stock goes
that's-
way
yep,
up and
yep.
InQtel makes a buck off of
Wow.
it. So
Wow.
not only are they getting the intelligence, the technology, but they're also making a shit ton of money
Yeah.
off of it.
I'm curious. Let me look up something here while you.
Says, so if InQtel decides it likes an idea, its investment will draw significant attention from other capitalists, venture capitalists, letting the private sector fund technology that benefits the CIA's clandestine programs. So basically, they're buying this technology through the private sector's funding of it. So it's being funded by the outside. They don't even have to pay for the technology.
Wow.
Is basically what it sounds like. Anyway, what do you think of InQtel? Had you heard of InQtel before?
I had not until we started looking into things.
Mhm.
But yes, it is some shady shit.
What are you looking up there?
Well, I was just curious to see if but InQtel is not a publicly traded company, is it?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, okay. I was just seeing if they showed up in the stocks. So
No, they get all their funding from the CIA, literally from the CIA. Like it's one thing. If the intelligence communities want to invest in technology.
So here's Palantir Technologies. I pulled up here on Robinhood.
Mhm.
You can currently buy a share at $7.86, and it has gone up through the roof in the last like year.
No, so what are they working on right now? That's what I would
Exactly.
like to know.
Yeah.
So
I know, 786 though. I might buy some stock.
no shit. So it's one thing for the intelligence communities. Are you all right over there?
I think so.
To invest in technology, because obviously they got to build their
Right.
technology
Yeah.
up too.
And I mean, it takes. I would like to say, well, it doesn't take. It supplements taxpayer dollars. It doesn't take away because they're still getting those taxpayer dollars.
Yeah,
Right.
but yeah, it brings the cost down for the taxpayer. Is what it should do. What it should do, but I guarantee it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It's less that the government has to fork out, because like I was saying, the investors basically pay for it for them because they make a shit ton of money in the process by
like
investing.
You said, I mean, you see the government investing in something and everybody's going to flock to it.
But it's one thing for them to go and look for new technology and be like, hey, we're going to help you. We need to increase our technology here. That's one thing. But they are literally paying, investing in products to spy on us, specifically to spy on us and to watch our every move and to document and record every transaction that we do. That is, I mean, this
we're doing it for them.
Well, this literally blows Edward Snowden's stuff, NSA stuff, out of the
absolutely.
water.
Oh yeah, this makes that stuff look like nothing.
Yeah, and it's the private sector that's doing it for them. The NSA doesn't even have to do it.
Yeah.
The private sector does it for it, and they just trade information back and forth and funding.
And I mean, we talked about shortly after January 6th how what's his face? Zuckerberg was like, "Oh, we'll crack down on misinformation and stuff." Well, I mean, and we thought that was a big deal. And and this makes that look like nothing.
Well, it makes you wonder, do they even want to crack down on the misinformation? Because if you allow that to be out there, you can group people
exactly
into
those that
your
follow for it.
The birds of the
it's
feather
like the
type.
people that were posting, I believe in medical freedom, or I'm not getting a vaccine or something like that.
Yeah, they can start sorting those people.
Well, we'll put you over here.
Yeah, put them in their birds of a feather group. Like, put us in our flock so they can link us up when the time comes. If an event, whether it be a real event or a false flag, which most likely would be a false flag, they can be like, look, these guys over here, we have all this information gathered on them.
Yeah.
And not to mention every other thing.
Yeah.
that you've ever done online. It's all in there.
It's in the
So
black Facebook.
yeah, well, they can use so much probably
Dark,
for
dark.
blackmail.
Yes.
Yeah, not black Facebook. black Facebook.
That's a totally different thing.
Yes. That's what Zuckerberg originally wanted to call it, but all his buddies were like,
that's
"You
not a good
should
idea.
Blackface book doesn't sound." He's like, "It's blackface book," and his buddy's like, "So we're gonna work on blackface book," and he's like, "Why do you keep
Just stop. You're
separating?"
so awkward.
So we see they're in bed together. How in bed are they? We definitely dove into that.
Yes.
Let's talk about the revolving door, because you brought it up a couple times, and let's talk about this woman here. This is just an example. This woman's name is Regina E. Dugan.
Okay.
And this isn't anybody really specifically. I mean, she is connected, but it's not like she was in any of these articles. This was just a point I wanted to make.
I've never heard of her.
Regina Dugan is an American businesswoman, inventor, technology developer, and government official. She was the first female director of DARPA, or the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. They're responsible for technology that does all kinds of bad shit. Dugan began working for DARPA in '96. Over the next 4 years, she led numerous multi-million-dollar research programs. God, I laughed too hard. Now I lost my voice. Her most notable research project was known as Dog Nose, which involved the development of an advanced portable system that could detect explosive content of landmines. That does okay.
Yeah.
God, I can't talk now. In '99, she was awarded Manager of the Year for her work at DARPA in 2000. So, worked at DARPA. Oh my God, I'm dying. After DARPA, she left DARPA in 2000 and became the Vice Chief of Staff for the United States Army.
Oh.
Her work included study titled Quick Reaction Study on Countermine, which was briefed to senior members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff during Operation Enduring Freedom. So she probably used a lot of her connection or technology connections and to spying type shit.
Yeah.
In the war on terrorism, obviously.
Yeah. IEDs and whatnot.
In 2005, let's move on. All right. So she left DARPA. She left the Army. She became an executive director at Google next.
Oh, okay.
There she led and created advanced technology and projects at Motorola. So she worked for Google subsidiary Motorola, like the flip phones, the Razors, all the cool phones.
Yeah, my first phone was a Razor.
Yes. In January of 2014, Motorola was acquired by Lenovo, and she stayed at Google. Later, she moved to Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So she's gone from DARPA to the Army to Google to Facebook. She joined a team called Building 8, and I'm not 100% sure of this, but I did read that Building 8 they were researching brain chip type technology.
Yeah.
So she's part of that.
That doesn't surprise me.
In October, she announced that she would be leaving. Of October 2017, she announced she'd be leaving in 2018 to pursue other endeavors. In May, she was announced as the CEO of Welcome Leap. That sounds nice and flowery, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome Leap. First of all, what do you we need to get into Welcome Leap, but what do you think of this? Do you think there's something shady about them going from Google or from DARPA
to the Army?
So intelligence agencies basically, then right into Google, then right into Facebook, and just this whole pattern of revolving.
Very much so. Yes.
And she's not the only one. I had heard of several other that went specifically from these QIntel or in QTEL groups, or there was this other forum thing. I can't think what it was called, but they basically funded in QTEL, or they're a part of that, or the start of it. But they would go on from that board into the boards of these big tech industries and stuff. So it's like the food industry where we see they work for the health organizations, then go into the CEO of Monsanto or something, some big
shady,
private corporation. They lobby for this company, and then they get this lucrative position at the top. I'm sure she helped.
Oh yeah.
Secure some of the deals between DARPA and Google and Facebook, and then all of a sudden they awarded her with this.
Yeah, you don't lose those connections, and
no,
and she's not even, like you said, she's not even a spotlight person.
No,
like, this is somebody no one's ever heard of before.
No, not at all. Do you want to hear about this? What was it called? Leap something.
Welcome Leap.
Welcome Leap. 2 L's. A Welcome Leap.
Oh, okay, that sounds scary.
It's the world's richest medical research foundation, the Wellcome Trust. It's teamed up with a pair of former DARPA directors, which is she's one of them, and who built Silicon Valley's Skunk Works to usher in an age of nightmarish surveillance, including for babies as young as 3 months old.
Holy shit!
So it's like super medical technology, big tech medical type stuff.
Right.
They're heavily involved in mRNA research and like vaccine type shit.
Of course.
Let's just read a little. It says a UK nonprofit with ties to global corruption throughout the COVID-19 crisis, as well as historical and current ties to the UK eugenics movement, launched a global health-focused DARPA equivalent last year. So it's basically like DARPA for health.
For healthcare. That sounds horrible.
The move went largely unnoticed by both the mainstream and independent media. So again, I've never heard of this fucking thing, but apparently they're like second to Bill Gates in research for COVID-19 is what they're saying.
Wow.
It says Wellcome Trust was arguably second only to Bill Gates in its ability to influence events during COVID-19 crisis and vaccination campaigns. Launched its own global equivalent of the Pentagon's secretive research agency last year, officially to combat the most pressing health challenges of our time. Scary enough for you?
Yeah.
That says enough right there.
Right.
It says the global health DARPA, known as Wellcome Leap, seeks to achieve breakthrough scientific and technological solutions by or before 2030.
Oh, shit. Are you serious?
They're checking off all the boxes here.
No doubt.
This is from newsware.com. So this might be kind of conspiracy minded, but I feel like a lot of this is probably pretty accurate from what it sounds. CD McRae says, this lady must be full of great ideas. Yes, all her connections.
That's my thought.
She's full of the best. The Wellcome Trust is open about how Wellcome Leap will apply approaches of Silicon Valley and venture capital firms to the health and life science sector. Unsurprisingly, their 3 current programs are poised to develop incredibly invasive tech-focused and, in some cases, overtly transhumanist medical technologies, including a program exclusively focusing on using artificial intelligence, mobile sensors, and wearable brain mapping tech for children 3 years old and younger.
Jesus.
So we're going to put this brain mapping sensors in AI in 3-year-old kids.
Yeah, why not?
Start them out young, right?
Right, absolutely.
It says this ultimate hangout investigation explores not only the 4 current programs of Wellcome Leap, but also the people behind it. So this is extensive. I'm going to include this in the show notes when we release this, because this one's really interesting. Because it talks about how she's been big into like transhumanist stuff her whole career, working with DARPA. Apparently, she was director under Obama.
Of course.
She was, let's see, what else? It says she is best remembered at the agency for her so-called special forces approach to innovation. During her tenure, she created DARPA's now defunct Transformational Convergence Technology Office, which focused on social networks, synthetic biology, and machine intelligence.
That says a lot right there.
Yes. Many of the things, and then so to think she went just from DARPA to Facebook is just like, whatever. But to realize that she was focused on social networks for DARPA, and then went on to work with Facebook, that's telling. There.
Yeah, absolutely.
Many of the themes previously managed by the office, the Transformational Convergence Technology Office, are now overseen by DARPA's Biological Technologies Office, which was created in 2014 and focuses on everything from programmable microbes to human-machine symbioses. The biological tech office, like Welcome Leap, pursues a mix of health-focused biotechnology programs and transhumanist endeavors. Scary shit. Very scary shit. So it goes on and on. It talks about these other people. It talks about her, but it also talks about like this guy that's involved in Welcome Leap. He was a pandemic narrative manager. So he pushed the whole COVID agenda.
Right.
Says he's his name is Jeremy Farrar. He has been director of Welcome Trust since 2013 and has been actively involved in critical decision making at the highest level globally since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis. So,
I mean, think about
people.
that title,
Right.
Pandemic Narrative Manager.
I don't. Well, that's what they're saying he is. I don't know if that's his actual.
Well, no, I would hope not.
Apparently, rulers of gene sequencing industries are part of this.
Of course.
I can't get into all these, but it says Welcome Leap currently has 4 programs: multi-stage psych. Go away. What the hell? Get on my way. Delta Tissue, 1KD, and Hope. Hope was the first program to be announced by Welcome Leap and stands for Human Organs Physiology and Engineering. According to the full program description, Hope aims to leverage the power of bioengineering to advance stem cells, organoids, and whole organ systems and connections that recapitulate human physiology in vitro and restore vital functions in vivo. So it sounds like they're putting robots inside people.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
what that sounds like to me.
In lieu of actual organs.
Then it gets into the transhumanist toddlers. It says 1KD is focused on developing objective, scalable ways to assess a child's cognitive health by monitoring the brain development and function of infants and toddlers, allowing practitioners to risk stratify children and predict responses to interventions in developing brains. So they're putting this brain mesh stuff in them to it's to help
figure
child
out how
development. Obviously, it's all for the best.
Map the human brain development, and then I'm sure figure out how to use that.
We've got Tissue Time Machine. These are some other
interesting.
I don't know what that is. It says Delta Tissue aims to create a platform that monitors changes in human tissue function and interactions in real time, ostensibly for explain the status of a disease in a person and better predict how the disease would progress. Referring to this platform as a tissue time machine, Welcome Leap sees Delta as being able to predict the onset of disease before it occurs, while also allowing for medical intervention that are targeted to the individual. I mean, I've seen enough sci-fi movies to see how all of these things can go horribly wrong.
Yes.
So what do you think of this woman?
Scary, very scary. And like I said, she's not someone who's ever been on my radar before. So, and like I said,
maybe there's a good reason for that.
And I'm sure. And like I said, she's one of thousands, I'm sure, of people that we've never heard of that has been involved in this revolving door of these different
big
systems.
Tech
the big tech.
And she's all about surveillance, all about data collection. I mean, it's all for good causes, obviously,
of course,
not for anything nefarious.
Yeah.
That's why she worked for DARPA.
Right.
So, I mean, that enough is just enough to.
But again, I mean, the reason why, all this is a means to an end. And the means to an end is AI. They're mapping humans. They're data collecting humans and how they evolve, how their thoughts work. And it's all going into trying to create some kind of sentient AI system.
Why though? Why?
Well,
what is the purpose of it? That you what do you think?
To be the intelligence system, so that they don't have to chase after everybody. They have an AI system that will watch everything, right? Iron Man's armor around the world, if you will.
But so there's the whole tracking people.
Avengers.
Right. There's the whole tracking of people, the whole data collection. But I think there's something deeper to this whole
I think
transhumanist push.
No, it's to control.
It's to control, but I feel this is way conspiracy theory. I feel that these super elitists, they want to live forever. That's their end game.
Oh, absolutely.
They probably think whether they believe in a god or something, or they believe in reincarnation, they know that it's not going to end well for them
Right,
when they
right.
leave this earth or
Yeah.
come back because of all the shitty things they did. So let's make it so they live forever. But if everybody lives forever, there's going to be too many damn people. So
Right.
we got to incorporate population control into that. So
Sure.
there's less people that are living longer,
Right.
and they're enjoying the benefits of all the resources on their own.
Right.
But
Well,
they got to keep some of us slaves too.
Right,
so.
absolutely. But I mean, it's easier to control people, and if you know how their brain works,
Or if
right,
you have a
can
brain
shut
chip
down
inside of
right,
them.
exactly, to force them to do what you want. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, maybe they're trying to find ways that they can move their consciousness over to, some digital system
Or that and
meta.
but yeah, they've talked about basically copying and pasting
Yeah.
our conscious into the cloud so it can just live
Yeah.
on. But they're also talking about the transhumanists putting biometrics and RoboCop parts on us
Right.
so we can all live. I mean, not we all.
And
they
that's
can
not
live.
going to be as cool as it sounds.
Yeah, they can put back in a freaking bionic brain, and then
Right.
they can just upload themselves back into it from the
Yeah,
cloud.
just keep uploading as that body dies.
But then on the other side of it, they also have to have the slaves out there,
Right.
but they have to be able to control the slaves
Yes.
through mass surveillance,
And if
through
that-
mass.
Yes. And if that slave is no longer useful, then they have to be able to push a button and that slave is gone.
Yeah. So all
I
scary
mean,
shit.
the whole premise, I mean, the in every direction it can go is scary because none of it is good for us.
Just the fact that this woman goes from DARPA to Facebook was enough for me. But then
Right.
to go from Facebook, Google to this transhumanist
Welcome
leap, which sounds
Yeah.
like a child. It sounds like leapfrog, like
Right.
the child tablets. Well, maybe that's part of it.
And I'll be honest, when I first saw the two L's, I thought of the Twin Towers.
Oh wow, creepy.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe there's some subliminal messaging in
Well,
there.
And they're all big on symbolism.
Yeah, it's all tied together.
Right.
So the last thing I want to talk about is a project I hadn't heard of, which is called Project Maven. Have you heard of this one?
No.
It's basically it's backed by Google, Peter Thiel, Eric Schmidt, James Murdoch, all these people. They're building this AI and facial recognition surveillance tool for
Who's
the
who
Pentagon.
of big tech.
Yeah, all the people we talked
Yeah.
about, plus Rupert Murdoch's
Yeah,
son.
right.
They're all working together to build this AI and facial recognition tool for the Pentagon.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So now, if they weren't bad enough,
Yeah.
they're all collaborating together with the Pentagon for facial recognition AI. And I'm sure it does so many other things besides just facial recognition. So it says, remember Project Maven? No, I don't. That's why we're talking about it. It was the Department of Defense's artificial intelligence initiative that hit the headlines when Google staff protested at being asked to build software that would improve drone targeting. Facial recognition for the Pentagon. What do you think their primary use is? Defense.
Right. Yeah.
Any sort of defense.
Absolutely. I mean, they've taken out way too many birthday parties in the Middle East.
Or maybe they want to take out more birthday parties.
You're right.
It says Google quote unquote listened. It's like when Sean Parker turned down the invitation to the CIA. Google listened to its rebellious staff and pulled out of the project to use AI to decipher aerial surveillance footage. Maven lives on despite the controversy. So Google pulled out.
Sure they did.
But listen to who all is still involved. It's thriving thanks in part to startup, or in part to a how do you pronounce that? CADRE. I don't fucking know. Cadre of Silicon Valley heavyweights.
Yeah, it's
a cadaver. A cadaver of Silicon Valley heavyweights and startups. We're back to the startups again.
Sure.
The startup, they're funding the startups who are going to use their technology to improve the defense systems of the people that are tracking us and bombing us with their drones. They include companies backed by investment funds owned by Google.
That makes sense.
Google pulled out of it, but they're backed by Google. Backed by investment funds that Google owns. So technically not Google.
Yes.
As well as startups whose boards include former Google chief Eric Schmidt, Palantir and Facebook investor Peter Thiel, and James Murdoch, the son of Fox News founder Rupert Murdoch. The DoD says Maven today of Maven today, it enhances the performance of human-machine teams by fusing intelligence and operations through AI, ML, and augmented reality technology. Project Maven seeks to reduce the time required for decision making to a fraction of time needed without AI. So we can decide whether or not we want to blow up this birthday party a lot quicker.
Twice the speed, 10 times the speed.
Yes. This department declined to talk about what contractors are working on Maven Tech, but former Google scientist and founder of Big Tech Monitor Tech Inquiry, Jack Polzin, discovered subcontracts signed off within overarching contracts with ECS Federal, a Beltway contract that worked with the DoD to acquire Google AI know-how for Maven. So they bought a lot of the AI technology from Google, but they pulled out of it.
Right.
But they still bought their technology from them. It talks about this project called Rebellion Defense. Again, we're back to nerd terminology, but I feel like they're pulling this from Star Wars because it also gets into like Jedi Cloud Project. But I feel like Rebellion Defense is also
Star Wars related.
Well, it's Star Wars related, but I feel like it's also secondary meaning is to defend against the rebels like us, like the citizens, the people that rise up, the people that they're grouping and putting on lists and stuff.
You think they purposely see themselves as like the Empire?
Yeah, I do. They are the only ones who watch Star Wars and like, that guy's a good guy. I want to be just like
I
the
want to
Emperor.
be like the Emperor.
Amongst the startups that won one of those Maven Link contracts is $220 million valued Rebellion Defense, a DC-based contractor that was funded by Schmidt's innovative endeavors. Schmidt and Murdoch, who gave money as an angel investor, are both Rebellion board members. Rebellion says its aim is to design AI products purpose-built for defense. So that's their whole strategy, is building defensive AI. Let's see what else we got. The Google connection. Google may have backed out of Maven, but startups funded by its sister company, GV or Google Ventures, one of a handful of venture capital operations under the Alphabet family, have pressed on with the DoD business. So no, Google's not. But Alphabet,
their sister company.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the same money.
Alphabet's still in it, but they just don't want Google's name associated with it.
Exactly. So GV, we'll call it GV.
We'll call it GV. No one will look deeper than that.
One of the GV-funded Maven contractors is Orbital Insight, founded by former Google big data scientist Jimmy Crawford. So the revolving door. How many ex-Google employees are part of this? It's like, no, we're not going to be part of it, but I'm going to go work with them. And when I'm done on that project, if you could just hire me back, and if I could keep my payroll, that'd be fantastic.
Just keep paying me, and I'll just come back.
And I will pass along all the information that I do.
Everything I earn.
We'll be good. Forbes previously reported Orbital had scored contracts with Customs and Border Protection and the military to analyze footage from satellites, and that it had bid for work on Project Maven, according to two former employees. It says startups founded by two ex-Googlers. Oh my God. It's just all these Google personnel.
Right.
Crowd AI and Clarif AI are also providing tech in Maven linked contracts. Google,
fucking Google, guys.
Google. Peter Thiel's connection.
Of course.
Two contractors on Tech Inquiry's list of Maven contractors are backed by Thiel, a former Trump ally and Facebook investor. One is Scale AI, and $7 billion valued San Francisco-based provider of technology designed to accelerate development of AI. The other, bet you can't guess what the other one is. One of Thiel's better-known investments has also scored bid with Maven. Palantir, which was already reported to be working on Maven since 2019.
Of course.
The records reveal for the first time that Palantir was paid $25 million for licenses in 2018 in a Maven Link deal. The company declined to comment.
Of course.
Other companies involved: Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and IBM. Again, there's a Bill Gates Two Bill Gates connections there,
Yep.
Microsoft and IBM. They're all listed as providers too. IBM was the only company to confirm it no longer is working on Maven, probably
Sure.
because Bill Gates went to
Just
Microsoft.
like Google's not.
Yes, but their sister company,
Yeah.
Think Machines, is working on.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Mm.
Operation Maven or Project Maven, whatever this is called.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is small time though. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not. This is a small portion of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's again the tech companies in bed with the intelligence services. Yeah, they're not directly, but all their former CEOs and former scientists and stuff. Well, they're taking Google's technology, stuffing it in briefcases in their pants and shit, and going to Maven.
You're right.
And then they're going right back to
fuck
Google,
yes.
or maybe getting
Yeah.
offered a job at Facebook afterwards.
I mean, think about it. What is you get all this data together, right? I mean, why actually control the little people when you can have smart cities control the people?
Right.
Right?
You can basically control what they do based on what they're allowed to do.
People follow patterns. People are naturally habitual.
Mhm.
And so you can take an AI that can analyze that, and they can predict what people are going to do day in and day out and control that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's horrible.
What is the solution to all of this? How do we get around this? Because like we're so concerned over the last couple of years that China's stealing our data through TikTok, when our own fucking government is doing so much more,
but
so
it's
much
a nice
worse.
distraction, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, well, don't download TikTok because they're
But here's
stealing
the
all-
American version. It's much better.
It's called Facebook.
Yeah.
It's called Google. All the sites that you regularly get on each day are connected to these corporate giants like Google and Facebook and Twitter, and they are just collecting all your data.
Same thing as TikTok.
Filtering it through Peter Thiel's freaking company, Palantir,
right?
and creating profiles for you so they can I guarantee you the Palantir shit is so much more sophisticated than anything China's offering or like collecting through. Right. They might be collecting your data, but I imagine they're not going through as extreme.
Well, and if they're doing it to get information about United States corporate and military targets.
Yeah,
not you personally.
I mean, I'm sure they're collecting it all, but they're filtering for specific things.
Yes,
not
exactly.
filtering everything.
Right.
And categorizing everything and making a catalog.
A dark Facebook.
A dark Facebook. A black Facebook. So that when you do screw up or you are associated with something, they can just pull up your profile and convict you on that. Or even worse, predict what you're going to do and convict you on your prediction.
Right. Yeah.
Which is at the end of the day what they're going for here.
Right.
So what about digital IDs then? Because I feel like that would take all of it and combine it into one where they don't even have to collect it from all these resources now.
Yeah.
It's just right there on your digital ID.
Right. Absolutely.
So
for a scan.
Yeah. So what do we do? What do we do?
Got an EMP pulse anywhere?
Should we be concerned about this, or is it just so ingrained in our life now? It's like, fuck
no,
it.
I think we very much should be.
Wrap our houses in like tinfoil so to keep the 5G radiation out of it.
I mean, I don't know about that, but again, it's like you said. I mean, I guess in a sense, technology has become the number of the beast, and because you have to have it to do business, you have to do it to exist in this world. But at the same time, I mean, as long as you're doing that, they're going to keep collecting. What you throw away your cell phone, you get off of social media, and then what? Right? Every phone is IP based now.
Right. Everything.
I mean, there is no analog phones.
Think about your smart refrigerator, your smart cars, everything.
Everything is listening.
It's listening, it's tracking, it's analyzing, it's collecting, and all of this information is going to some database that is being farmed out to advertisers and also farmed out to the intelligence agencies that are the freaking lovers of the big tech.
So, leave the tech behind, move up to the mountains and
I mean, yeah, we have to disconnect somehow.
Well, I
Will
mean-
we is the question. Like
Well, and
we're
that's the thing.
pretty well
I mean,
connected
you and I
ourselves.
talk about it. Yeah, you and I talk about it, but like you said, we're both very well connected.
Mhm.
You know, and you know, what do you do about it?
To my question, should you be concerned? Edward Snowden answered that when he said, arguing that you don't care about privacy because you have nothing to hide is no different than saying you don't care about free speech because you have nothing to say.
Yeah, that's true.
This guy, why this guy hasn't been pardoned by, I mean, I feel like if President Trump would have pardoned him, I would have possibly voted for
If
President-
Trump would have pardoned him, yes, that would have turned around a lot of people.
but he didn't, which
No.
says a lot about him.
Exactly.
And that Peter Thiel guy was a diehard Trump guy. So that answers a lot of questions that we had. Oh, was Trump the good guy? No, he probably wasn't.
No, he
Probably
was just
had-
another cog.
Yeah, he was another, and he's part of the corporate machine that's creating all of this,
Right.
that's producing all of this.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, he's part of the system, just like Elon Musk.
yeah, I feel like obviously Peter Thiel has direct connections to Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is making the smart cars, and he's all into transhumanism and all that shit. So and he's one of the freaking government's biggest contractors as well with SpaceX.
Right.
So I mean, he can't be some lord and savior when he's directly tied into
Exactly.
this same system.
Yeah.
So
No, I feel like you know, anybody tied into big tech is going to be part of this system. I mean, there's nobody you can look to and be like, oh, well, that guy's going to save us. I mean, that nobody can save you.
Mm-mm.
You just you got to try to, if you can't unplug totally, at least unplug as much as you can.
I forgot about Bitcoin.
Oh, yes, you were going to get to that.
I was just going to mention it because we're about out of time. Apparently, her name is Natalia Kaspersky. Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
Kaspersky?
The name okay. Yes.
Kaspersky security. It's like a antivirus type software company.
Yes.
The founder of Kaspersky.
Weren't they the ones that did the war games of the hacking a couple years ago?
I'm not sure, but all I know is the founder of Kaspersky came out and basically said that the CIA created Bitcoin to continue to fund their clandestine stuff without being tracked now.
Sure.
Because the
makes
whole
sense.
the whole idea that Bitcoin could allow criminals to be untracked and they're the CIA's been doing that same shit.
Right.
Like how many covert like drug missions is the CIA responsible for, or money laundering and shit?
Right.
So do you think possibly they'd form some sort of currency that may or may not be tracked so they can continue? And this is, I mean, she's a pretty big name coming out. It's not some conspiracy theorist. She's like, no, this obviously was created by the CIA.
Yeah. And the CIA obviously doesn't care because she's still alive.
She basically said that some coding in Bitcoin came directly from like CIA intelligence and stuff. So she's convinced. And the whole thing that like all the cryptocurrency is basically up and then crashes down. And Bitcoin's the one that is allowed to kind of stay course a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just something to look into. I don't have a lot of intelligence on this. I don't know a lot about cryptocurrency, but it would not surprise me if they didn't create it. They're at least co-opting it and using it to their own advantage, because that's what they do. So
absolutely.
So is anything safe? I guess is anything. Can we trust anything at this point that's digital related?
Well, I mean, think about how easily it can be manipulated. I mean, how can you?
Yeah. So when all the big tech companies that we already knew that they had like handshake relationships and dipping their hands in their pockets and back and forth. But to find out that a lot of them came straight from like funding from the intelligence agencies, you don't think that they're going to call on their chips and be like, all right, you owe us now.
Right.
Like
absolutely
all the research you did, we want part of that.
Or
all the data you collected, we want access to that.
It was created with some kind of backdoor that they have
Oh
access to
yeah,
at all times.
Russia has come out and declared that all Microsoft computers have some kind of backdoor, and they have it might have been Kaspersky. It was some, I don't think it was them, but there was some company that made a patch for Microsoft computers coming into Russia, so they wouldn't have that backdoor because they say that basically Microsoft allows the government to spy on you through their back doors. And that doesn't surprise me. So everything has a back door. I mean, Apple was under pressure for not unlocking a phone of a shooter or something. Remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, that was.
So they were like trying to hire people to backdoor into that.
And Apple was the big hero, and they were like, "No, we're not giving you that because our encryption's important.
Yes,
privacy is important to us."
Yes, and I don't really believe that either.
No.
So,
no.
I wanted to see if I could find the Microsoft. I don't think I saved that one. It was Russian time, so.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't remember. Anyway,
it doesn't surprise me. I mean, like you said, technology is so easily manipulated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
just the
it's
fact,
so easy to put backdoors in anything.
Well, we've talked before that any of these mega corporations only got to where they did because the government allowed them to by playing ball.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just going to get smashed or like held back to like $1 million level company. Any like multi-billionaire has some sort of connection with somebody, and they're not going to allow you. They're not going to fund you without getting their own out of it. They want something out of it. And anytime if the NSA or CIA comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to fund this project," you better stop and ask yourself, what do they want with this?
Think about it. I mean, think about the time period that the internet really came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was going on at the same time?
All the government, anti-government sentiment of the 90s. We're tying back to a bunch of like all our episodes over the last 2 months are tying together very nicely. So tracking these groups, these like dissident groups. That's specifically what they were looking for when Google was founded. That's what they were looking for with the LifeLog. And then that merged into Facebook or Google, and that turned into what's it?
Palantir.
Palantir. There you go. I keep forgetting. So it all started there and just morphed into this mega monster that's just out of control now.
You know what t-shirt you should come in? Of course, this will get us on the list immediately.
We already are on the list.
Ted Kaczynski was right.
I've said for years that I agree 100% with everything Ted Kaczynski said and did, minus the blowing people up.
Right.
It's absolutely true.
But how do we know he actually blew people up and it wasn't
the government?
Yes.
False flags from the government.
Because he was too dangerous.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Waking people up. Or maybe he did to wake people up. It's like, I got to get people's fucking attention. I got to blow shit up. So maybe he blew shit up and then they started blowing people up to demonize him. You know, it could go a lot of directions.
Yeah,
so
it could.
But I like I said, I agree with all the things he talked about when it came to like technology running our lives.
Right.
So you should read his manifesto if you have not yet. As a listener, go read the Ted Kaczynski manifesto.
Okay. It's my next book I'm picking up.
Yes, it's pretty good. That's all the time we got. Not ending on a happy note, but I guess start figuring out ways to disconnect. After you digest all this, because it's going to take a little bit out of your brain.
Yeah. I mean, again, as much as you can, you know, again, it's hard when it's just so vital in your life nowadays.
Right.
But, you know, as much as you can disconnect.
Yeah. And we say this on a freaking
digital podcast.
Digital podcast on a Google sponsored company, Google-based company, also live streaming to Facebook and Twitter. So we're checking all the boxes here.
If the show shows up,
yes,
right.
Do what you can to disconnect after you listen to the show, obviously.
Yeah.
That's all the time we got for this week. I feel like this was a nice deep dive.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Definitely plenty of stuff to think about and process. I don't know where to go from here, but I will think about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. The comment section is always open all over YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can leave a comment, leave a note. We have the Facebook forum, which is known as the Breaking the Bell forum because our initial forum got nuked. So yeah, hit us up. Let us know what you think. Share the shit far and wide over the social medias, the CIA driven social medias, so we can get this info out there as much as we can.
Yeah. This isn't one that I've heard anywhere else.
No, like I said, I've heard bits and pieces enough to make me want to dig more, and that's what came of today. Check us out all our social media, like and subscribe, all that fun, happy shit that we tell you to do every week. Otherwise, be back here for the weekend wrap up this weekend, where we wrap up your week. Also, the Two Scoops morning show with me and my brother Dan Smots of the System is Down podcast every Tuesday and Thursday morning that we feel like at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Check all that shit out and share it with a friend. We'll talk to you next time. Have a great week.
Peace.
Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.